I want you to imagine this for a second. It's December. The song you've heard a million times is everywhere again. Grocery stores, TikTok videos, mall speakers, car radios, and suddenly, behind the glitter and sleigh bells, there's a courtroom. A judge, lawyers arguing over Christmas itself. And at the center of it all, Mariah Carey. Because while the rest of the world was humming along, something explosive was happening quietly behind closed doors. A lawsuit, a demand for millions, and a ruling that just changed the conversation around one of the biggest songs in music history. Now before you roll your eyes and think, here we go again, another overhyped celebrity drama, let me stop you right there. I've been reading through your comments on the last few videos, and I see some of you calling out the drama. Honestly, I get it. In a world full of scripted TV, fake beefs, and AI-generated headlines, it's hard to know what's real anymore. I felt the exact same way when I first saw this story pop up. I almost skipped it, but then I started reading the actual court filings. I looked at the timelines. I watched interviews people forgot existed. And what I found didn't just surprise me, it genuinely shook me. Because this wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about a song. It was about legacy, ownership, and one woman being told, decades later, that the thing she built might not even be fully hers. And here's the part that hooks you instantly. Mariah Carey didn't just win. She won big. The payout was massive. The ruling was decisive. And the fallout, oh, that's still spreading across the internet like wildfire. I know what you're thinking right now. How can anyone sue over a Christmas song that old? Or maybe, didn't that song exist before Mariah? Or even, is this just another cash grab? Trust me, those exact questions are what turned this case into a full-blown social media war. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to rewind the clock way back before the Christmas crowns, before the diva headlines, before the 5-octave legend status. Before the world knew her as Mariah Carey. She was a kid growing up in a complicated household, bouncing between homes, dealing with racism, instability, and feeling invisible. Music wasn't just a dream for her. It was survival. She wrote songs because it was the one place she felt in control. When she finally broke into the industry, it wasn't handed to her. She fought for creative freedom in a system that wanted to box her in, control her image, and tell her what kind of artist she was allowed to be. And then, in the mid-90s, something almost accidental happened. A Christmas song, not meant to be ironic, not meant to be cheesy, just joyful, warm, honest. All I Want for Christmas Is You wasn't supposed to become a global monster. It was just another track on a holiday album. But you know how that story ends. Every single year, like clockwork, it comes back. Chart-topping, streaming records, Billboard domination. It became so big that people started joking Christmas doesn't officially start until Mariah hits that high note. And that's where the resentment started to grow. Years later, other artists came forward claiming they'd done something similar before. That Mariah didn't invent the idea. That the title existed. That the vibe wasn't unique. And eventually, those whispers turned into a lawsuit. A serious one. Claiming copyright infringement. Claiming millions in damages. Claiming that the song we all know and love shouldn't belong to her alone. When the news first broke, social media exploded instantly. TikTok split down the middle. One side posting videos saying, Mariah is being greedy, while the other side fired back with, she wrote it. She sang it. She made it iconic. Twitter, or X, turned into a battlefield. One viral post said, you can't own Christmas. Another shot back, you also can't rewrite history. Reddit threads went deep. People pulling up obscure recordings. Others breaking down chord progressions like amateur lawyers. One comment that went viral said, if Mariah loses this, no artist is safe. Another said, this is why creativity dies. And through all of that noise, Mariah stayed quiet. No messy Instagram lives. No subtweets. No emotional interviews. Just silence. Which, looking back now, makes everything even more powerful. Because while the internet screamed, the courtroom focused on facts. This is where the story starts to peel back layer by layer. The first layer was simple. Did a song with the same title exist before Mariah's? Yes. That part is true. But titles alone aren't protected. That's not how copyright works. That revelation already knocked out half of the arguments people were using online. The second layer went deeper. Melody, lyrics, structure. The court compared everything. And here's what shocked a lot of people. The similarities everyone swore were obvious, weren't actually there when examined legally. Emotionally, maybe. Nostalgically, sure. But on paper, not enough. The third layer is where things started to feel personal. Testimony revealed just how much original work went into Mariah's version. Not just singing it, but shaping it. The harmonies, the pacing, the emotion, the production choices that turned a simple idea into a cultural moment. And that's when the tone of the case shifted. The fourth layer was about impact. The defense argued that Mariah's song didn't just succeed, it created its own lane. It didn't replace anyone else's work. It overshadowed it. And legally, that matters. You can't claim damages just because someone else did something bigger. By this point, even skeptics started to go quiet. You could feel it online. Those confident, "she's done," posts slowly disappearing. Comment sections changing tone. One TikTok user said, "I wanted to hate on her, but this feels solid." Another wrote, "I didn't realize how hard it is to prove this stuff." And then came the fifth layer. The one nobody expected. The ruling didn't just dismiss the claims. It came with consequences, financial ones. The court ordered the plaintiffs to cover legal costs. And when you're dealing with a case this long, this complex, those numbers climb fast. That's the big payout everyone's talking about. Not just a win, a decisive one. When that news hit, the internet flipped overnight. Suddenly TikTok was flooded with videos celebrating Mariah. People joking, "she defrosted early this year." Twitter memes calling her the queen of copyright. Reddit threads admitting they were wrong. One comment that stuck with me said, "This isn't about Christmas. This is about respecting creators." And here's where I want to pause for a second and talk to you directly. If you're still watching right now, you're clearly invested in stories like this. Stories that go deeper than the headline. So if you haven't already, this is one of those moments where hitting subscribe actually matters. Because we don't just repeat what everyone else is saying. We read the documents. We follow the timelines. And yeah, turn on notifications too, because stories like this don't end when the news cycle does. Now, you'd think that would be the end of it. Case closed. Celebration. Curtain call. But there's one more twist. Because this victory wasn't just about money or pride. It quietly reinforced something huge in the music industry. That legacy artists can still defend their work. That success doesn't erase authorship. That time doesn't weaken truth. And the biggest shock, Mariah never framed this as a fight. She framed it as protection. In a rare comment after the ruling, she thanked the court for recognizing originality and respecting the creative process. No gloating, no victory lap. Just relief. Fans picked up on that immediately. One tweet read, "She didn't win to flex. She won to survive." Another said, "Imagine having to prove you wrote your own song after 30 years. And that's the part that truly broke me when I was researching this. The idea that someone who gave the world so much joy still had to stand up and say, "This is mine." So now I want to ask you something. When you hear that song this year, are you going to hear it differently? When it starts playing for the 100th time, will you think about the courtroom behind it? The silence she kept. The fight she didn't publicize. Because whether you love the song or hate it, this case just reminded everyone that behind every overplayed hit is a human being who made it. And that final layer, the real secret, the reason this story matters so much, isn't the payout. It's the precedent. The message sent quietly but clearly. That even the biggest songs in the world aren't public property just because they're popular. So tell me in the comments, honestly. Did you think Mariah was wrong at first? Did this change your mind? Or do you still think Christmas music should belong to everyone? Whatever side you're on, one thing is undeniable. This wasn't just a win for Mariah Carey. It was a reminder that sometimes, the quiet battles are the ones that matter most. And if you stayed until the very end, you already know, this story was never just about Christmas.